This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC Fight Night. Allen versus Craig. Give you my thoughts and predictions on that whole crappy card. There's a couple good fights on there, but before I do that, I'm just going to get right into the recap of UFC 295. Prohaska versus Pereira. Giving you my thoughts on the entire card. Very ecstatic about the outcomes on most of these. There's one particular fight that did bum me out, but I'll get right into that. Jamal Emmers defeats Dennis Bumzuka. Bumzuka, I'll give him. No, I won't even give him credit. I thought Emmers was going to potentially beat him by a decision. I thought Bazooka was a little tougher than that. And I'm harsh on Bazooka, but like that's how I feel, man. Like I don't think he belongs in the UFC. And Jamal Emmers, who notoriously doesn't finish anybody, finishes Bazooka. I mean, Bazooka throws hard. I got a bit worried when Bazooka and Emmers were the same height. I I think I had Emmers on a parlay that got destroyed later on, but made it look easy. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see. Kevin Borjas gets defeated by Joshua Van. I picked Van, but I bet Borjas. Borjas looked good in that first round, then he just kind of fell off. Joshua Van, though, I was more than impressed by his number one, his mindset, his ability to come back after a rough first round, and his ability to adjust. I'm like, these are the kind of things that you want to see in these fighters when they're like heavy favorites, maybe 2 to 1 favorites. That is, when you're not comfortable betting them. Now I feel more comfortable betting Van in other situations because Borjas is a dog, and I think had it been any other opponent, lesser opponent, less technical than Joshua Van, Borjas would have had a much better time. He had a ton of body shots. Borjas, fun fighter. I think I would bet him again in this spot had he made a couple of adjustments. He definitely won round number one. But yeah, it was just a quarter unit loss there. John Castaneda defeats Kyung Ho Kang. I didn't track my bet on Kang, but that one lost. It was another quarter unit. Um, Castaneda looked amazing. He looked every bit of the guy who I've been like trying to hype up. Like this guy's very solid. I did say that he doesn't often pull the trigger and he relies too heavily on big moments. 138 Castaneda looked amazing. Bronchitis Castaneda is like a new mythical creature because like he 30-27 Kang Ho Kang did not let him get started. I was very impressed. It was a 30-27. I agreed with the 30-27. Like Kang didn't fight for my money, and it was just more of a if Kang pushes the pace, if he does what he needs to do, he never really seemed comfortable in there. John moved beautifully. I liked what John brought to the table, and I think now hopefully people respect John more. So moving on, Jared Gordon defeats Marco Madsen. I was feeling a little disappointed that I didn't bet Marco Madsen as a pretty decent dog. He looked very good in that first round, but then I kind of got the feeling maybe bet Jared live now that he's a closer to dog odds. I didn't get that. I picked Jared. Jared actually knocked him out. I was surprised at that. I thought Mark was going to have better defense, but overall, man, Jared keeps continuously showing us that he isn't a fantastic fighter that's going to contend for the title, but he will beat a lot of guys' asses in there. Whether they're a better wrestler, better striker, better whatever, he can mix things up. He's a very solid fighter. Moving on, Nazim Sadikov defeats Vyacheslav Borishev. Now, I had a half unit bet on Vyacheslav. I was very ecstatic at what I was seeing from Borshev. He kept attacking the legs hard. Combinations were beautiful. The first round, he completely dominated, not to a 10-8 standpoint, which I will get to. But I loved what I saw, and I was like super into it, like moving my head and shit. I was jumping up and down. Girlfriend's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, "Shut up, bitch. Let me enjoy this fight," because it was incredible. Everything Borshev was doing was amazing. And then Nazim, props to that man. He he does what he needs to do. Like even when he was getting his legs kicked out, like he never seemed out of the fight. Like he was definitely losing, but never out of the fight. And then he drops him, he rocks him in the second round after kind of getting beat up. And I was a little like, was that a 10-8? I wasn't sure just because me judging fights, I kind of like I try to keep my bias out of it. I know the 10-8 is a possibility, but I'm like, for me, was that a 10-8? And I went back and rewatched it. I initially said it was, and I'm like, it's very borderline. The easiest thing to do is to give Nazim the 10-8. Like very easy because of backlash and people talking, but the way I saw it, going back and rewatching, I think it was a lot of the commentators making it seem like it was a 10-8. Like, oh my God, he nearly finished him. Like, yeah, he did nearly finish him. Borshev immediately kind of recovered from the bottom, regarded. eventually got back up. He got dropped again. Or actually, no, he didn't get dropped again. He got hurt, and then Nazim took him down, which at that point, Vyacheslav kind of had his wits to him, regarded, lost that round. But my thought on it was bordering a 10-8, but I don't think Nazim did enough damage to really, for me at least, you can call me wrong on it, but for me at least, giving him that 10-8, because the way I saw it, Sadikov was definitely losing that round already 10-8. He hurts him, does some damage on him, cuts him, and then there was a good chunk of time where there was not a whole ton of exchanges happening. There wasn't a ton of punches being thrown. Vyacheslav recovered. There was a lot of grappling. At that point, had there been punches and domination and control time, and Vyacheslav wasn't really defending well, looked completely off, I'd be like, yeah, there's no doubt about that 10-8, because at that point, Nazim dominated, but he dominated parts of the fight, minutes of the fight, but then Vyacheslav recovered. So to me, it didn't feel like a full, true 10-8. Like, had Nazim been winning that round, then he dropped him. I can't deny it, because at that point, like the pendulum, for me, it started off obviously in the center. It went to the point where Borishev was winning that round, and then at that point, woof, it went all the way to the side of Sadikov. But did Sadikov do it enough to push it all the way to that 10-8? Like, am I going to disregard what good work Vyacheslav did? That's kind of my thought of it. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm just judging it from the couch. But also, maybe I'm a bit salty, possibly, that I didn't get my money. I was happy that both men didn't lose, but I thought Borishev did enough. Like, I thought he definitely won round number 2, and obviously round number 1 and round number 3. But that 10-8, I guess, save Sadikov. So we get to see how good Sadikov is. He gets lucky, keeps his O, and we get to see how good Borishev is. Just that, don't get clipped. But I know that guy can recover, and he's going to fight for my money. So I was very happy with the fight overall. It's just, damn, it just sucks not being technically right about this fight. But next fight, Mateusz Rebecki versus Roosevelt Roberts. Rebecki's a bad beast. Roberts has a tendency to leave his arms out there. A lot of people in the Discord are like, yeah, for sure it's a lock that Rebecki gets a knockout. And I'm just like, are you guys sure? I ended up, I guess, jinxing it by betting it. And then he ends up getting submission by armbar. And I'm like, well, Rebecki's legit, because Roosevelt Roberts he's never been submitted by an armbar, especially one that was telegraphed. Lupe Godinez defeats Tabitha Ricci. When I heard that Tabitha Ricci 30-27, I will quote the rapper Future. Ain't no way, ain't no fucking way. Boom, boom. Lupe, to me, won that fight at 29-28. Tabitha did some decent enough work. That fucking Minner, man, Eric Miner, whatever, giving 30-27 to Ricci, I was like, fuck, because I was kind of defending his scorecard, giving a 10-9 round number 2 to Statikov. I'm like, I can understand that. Like, I kind of agree with that. But when I saw that 30-27 Ricci, I'm like, maybe this guy is fucking stupid. And then he did another thing in the main card. I'm like, damn, this guy sucks. But yeah, Lupita keeps doing the same shit. Like, she looks good in one fight, and then she looks like shit the next fight. Like, I didn't like what she did here. I don't know how much longer I can keep defending her. What's funny, like, her next fight, she's probably gonna destroy some poor helpless woman. But Tabitha, like, she's all right, man. Like, she's nothing special to me. If she can't get takedowns, she really can't do much. Her striking didn't look great. She was always like throwing from too far away, and Lupita just seemed too scared. It is what it is. So moving on, Steve Erceg defeats Alessandro Costa. I had Erceg by finish. Erceg did what he needed to do. Costa, to me, seems like a guy who makes a ton of bad mistakes in there. His cardio held up pretty well, but yeah, not much of a fun fight. It started off fun where Steve dropped him, nearly finished him, but it is what it is. To me, Costa just seems like that kind of guy that will dominate a ton of better competition that can't really grapple and or have bad striking. A guy as well-rounded as Erceg is really going to be tough for him to do that. Diego Lopez easily defeats Pat Sabatini in the first round. There was talks about, like, oh, Pat's going to be able to control him, blah, blah, blah. Diego stuffed the takedown, and in the transition, basically knocks him out with an uppercut and just blasts him. People were like, "Oh, who was it? Tide Splitters." Like, "Oh, what's Pat gonna do next? What's next for Pat Sabatini?" I'm like, "He's gonna have to relearn how to walk and talk, because after that ass whooping, he ain't gonna be doing much." Very, very excited about Diego Lopez panning out. I had half a unit on him, so at this point, kind of everything got washed out, and the next fight really bummed me out because I really thought I had a good idea what was going to happen. And Benoit Saint-Denis defeats Matt Frivola with a head kick from hell. I had Matt Frivola. I had a bet on him. I was very confident in him, and I was feeling even more confident in him when he was easily defending takedowns and getting takedowns of his own against Benoit. And I'm like, dude, this is what you got to do. Take him down, tire him out, gas him out a little bit. You're the better striker, essentially. Just chill out. Do not get caught with anything. One particular thing I said is that when Matt kind of dips and dodges, he has to make sure to do that safely or not do it at all. Because if Benoit cracks him with a that left kick, that's a very good left kick that he has to the body, to the leg, to the head. Caught him with the head. What bummed me out about it is that although the kick, I'm not going to discredit anything from Benoit. That kick was absolutely beautiful. I was like, how the fuck did he extend so far? That was all skill, man. He waited. He followed Frivola as he was escaping against the cage, and he waited. He kind of had his hand out there trying to grab him to gauge him, and then he just extended that kick and caught him perfectly. Frivola, what bummed me out about it was that it wasn't a lack of skill that lost him the fight. It wasn't even a fluke. It was literally his hubris. Like he felt so comfortable on the outside to keep his hands down, and that little thing, had he had his hands up, could have prevented the knockout. And on top of that, I thought it was a very winnable matchup. So that's what really sucked. And you saw how good Favola looked, to the point that he could have had a better second round and possibly a finish in the third. It just kind of like sucks, man. Like Benoit proved that he's very good, but I just don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. Like I just see he has a lot of openings, a lot of negativity in his fight style, that although it's fun and I enjoy it, it reminds me of Drickus a little bit, maybe a cleaner version of Drickus, but it leaves his chin out there. He's very hittable. He takes damage. And I think when he hits a certain level of guy, he's going to get super exposed. But right now, is he just the boogeyman of the mid carders? Or when he hits the main event, is he going to have success as well? So I want to see him get really tested. He is not ready for no Islam. I want to see what he has. I want to see if he's the truth. So I want to see him get paired up with someone good. Like maybe someone mentioned in the Discord, my Discord, uh, Jalen Turner. I'm like, that would be a great fight. If he can get through Jalen Turner without a problem, I'd be like, okay, Benoit's ready for a title shot. But for Vola, man, it just sucks, especially knowing how good he is, how much preparation and time he put into this fight to get knocked out by keeping his hands down, which is like, I know he knows, like, oh, fuck, I screwed up big time. But moving on. Jessica Andrade defeats Mackenzie Dern. I had a parlay with Mackenzie Dern and Tom Aspinall. And I had to kind of scramble near the end after this fight to see, like, oh shit, what do I got to do to make some money? And overall, I'm pretty sure I either came up a unit up, or I'm sorry, a unit down, or broke even. I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure it's either I'm down a unit or I broke even overall in the night. But yeah, Jessica Andrade did not look impressive to me, but she did what she needed to do. Mackenzie Dern, though, looked every bit of regressed as I've ever seen. There was an interview she gave where she was like, "Oh man, like sometimes I get all upset when I'm at the gym and I can't do certain things. I kind of get in my own head, but like I keep getting better and I feel better sometimes when the next day I get the transition or things are working out for me." But I'm like, she's getting upset that things aren't working out. Like, what does she mean? I'm like, oh, is that, can I cash out? Should I cash out? I'm like, no, I already tracked it. She looked terrible. It wasn't so much her striking, it was her defense. Like she just didn't know what to do. Like she felt so afraid of Jessica Andrade that she just kind of forgot how to properly fight. Like midway, they were like, "Oh yeah, she's not training with Jason Perillo anymore." I'm like, "What? I didn't know that. I should have maybe looked into that." She looked really bad, and I'm not here to discredit or to get like all butt hurt that I lost money on Mackenzie Dern. It was more of like, I'm disappointed at how bad she looked because Jessica didn't look any better. She looked every bit of Jessica Andrade that was on her way to lose a fight had she not been able to get up from the ground after Mackenzie essentially like judo tripped her ass, head and locked her. It was more of like, damn, Mackenzie really she regressed really bad in that fight. So I'm not going to come out here and say like, oh my, like clearly I was wrong about it, and that's fine. But what I'm more concerned about is Mackenzie Dern gonna continue this downslope where she's going to look just as bad her next fight, or are they going to give her like an easy fight where she just dominates a girl that can't stuff takedowns, or are they going to give her a decent competition where she's going to have to sink or swim? That's my biggest concern with her because I see a ton of talent with her. I can't deny what I saw against her and Angela Hill. That was fantastic work. Like she looked great. Where did that go? I was more confused about the fight than anything. I'm like, fuck, I lost money, like it's my fault. And I'm like, what happened to that girl? I want to see that girl back. She was super fun. It just is what it is. Jessica Andrade, she is going to lose her next fight, so I'm not too concerned about that. But yeah, Mackenzie, I'm more worried about her. Like, where do we go with Mackenzie at this point? Tom Aspinall dinks and sinks Pavlovich. I said it. I tweeted it. The Allied forces win again. Defeat the UK defeats the Nazis again. I was like, damn, I thought you were going to submit them. And yeah, there was something I didn't want to say because it was going to sound fucking stupid, but I kind of thought to myself, like, maybe Sergey doesn't really have a whole ton of power. It's just more so the overwhelming combinations because he did dink Tom and Tom seemingly took the shots well. And I'm like, well, that should have been it. I know a lot of people who bet Sergey first round knockout might have been like, that should have been it. And then Tom comes out here and just dinks him on the top of the head and finishes him up on the feet. I was like, oh shit, Tom. Like I've always known how good Tom was. That's why I essentially bet him every single one of his UFC fights. It's just that I didn't think he was going to make easy work of Sergey Pavlovich. I was very impressed, especially knowing that his back was messed up. I was super ecstatic for Tom, especially as he's walking out of the arena. It's like it hits him like, oh fuck, I am a UFC champion. Giving it to his dad, that was a good moment. So props to Tom. Like he is the guy to beat at heavyweight at this point because it looks like he can beat literally anybody in that division, given his speed, his well-roundedness. He is like Frank Mir, but not dog shit. Is Frank Mir sans the motorcycle accident, but just faster. So it's like, wow, this guy is incredible, and I'm really looking forward to who they give him next. I I would love it if they gave him an interim title defense against Almeida, God King Almeida, because at this point he would he would do some stuff to that man. And then final bout, Alex Pereira defeats Jiri Prohaska. Now I bet Tom straight money line because of the Mackenzie Dern loss, so I had some money to spend. So I put that money, those winnings, on Alex Pereira, and I also put like the remainder of my bank on Bovada on fight doesn't go the distance. So I made a little bit of money on fight doesn't go the distance, and then I of course made some money on Pereira. So that's kind of where I'm like, did I break even or did I lose a unit? It is what it is. I was fine. What really sucked is that I lost most of that money on football today. It kicked my ass. Football's been like ruining my life. But yeah, Pereira defeats Yuri Prohaska. Pereira, beautiful low kicks. That's really what his main game plan was. I don't even think he had a true game plan other than like just be patient, don't expose your chin, let Jiri come to you, and he's like, "Fuck, I'm just gonna throw kicks." And those kicks really, really hurt Jiri to the point that like in the second round, well, in the first round, I should say he got taken down, he got controlled a bit. I think all of the judges gave it to Jiri that first round, even though Jiri didn't really do much with it. Most damage came from Alex. Better strikes came from Alex. I guess holding someone down for a couple minutes gives you a round these days. Alex, round number two, continuously attacks the leg. He's eating the shots from Jiri very well. Jiri is just more so switching stances, trying to confuse Alex. Alex not really falling for it. And then after the final leg kick, Jiri's like, screw it, I got to do something. He moves forward. He thinks he hurts Alex. He's against the cage. He stands his ground. Alex just overhand right, left, hooks him, drops him. And what the controversy is that was it an early stoppage? The sequence is he gets dropped. Jiri goes for a takedown. Alex pounds his head. Then he starts dropping elbows. What kind of elbows? elbows that are not being responded to well. They're not being defended. His head is just right there eating these elbows. And then what happens at that point? He goes limp. At that very moment where he goes limp before he falls backwards is when Mark Goddard decided to stop the fight. Had he not fallen backwards and Alex not gotten the full mount, it would have been stopped with Jiri just kind of lifeless there, getting elbowed in. I wasn't particularly against the stoppage, mainly not because I'm a huge Alex Pereira nut hugger. It is what it is, right? Like it just happened to be that way. It's just that with Alex on top, people are saying I wanted Jiri to go out. Why would you want Jiri to go out? Why would you want this guy that I respect, that most people respect, to take that much more damage? And it's like, oh, in title fights, let us go out. That's the fucking point of the referee, idiot. They're there to protect you so you don't have long lasting fucking brain damage. And I kept reading Twitter all fucking morning and last night, and everyone bitching about the stoppage. I'm like, it was a fine stoppage. Why do you want Jiri to get more damage? Like he went limp. It is what it is, man. People just want this horrible blood. Sometimes I get it. Like, yeah, you want a definitive answer, but at this point, to me, it was definitive enough. Like Jiri got rocked really bad. And then even Jiri himself is like, I was out. I'm like, damn, now that's a man right there. Like, I know if Alex would have been in the same situation, I would like to think because I had a bet on him and I would have lost that I have enough integrity that I'd be like, yeah, it is what it is. Shit happens. But I know if Alex would have been in that same situation, he would have been like, shit happens too. Like, both of these men are men, and I respect the shit out of them, especially Jiri for handling it like a man, unlike a lot of people on the internet. But enough of that. Let's get started with Allen versus Craig, first fight of the night. I'm going to time myself because a lot of the early card is not very good. So hopefully I can get this done in like 2 minutes for the first fight of the night here. So first fight of the night, we've got Lucas Alexander versus Jekka Saragih. Now, with the odds, fuck, I have to look them up. Minus 301 for Alexander. Who's fucking on? Bet online, okay. Plus 250 for Jekka Saragih. Now, what I like about this matchup, I think Saragih, because he's dropping down to 145, it's a much better suit for him, much better weight. He's very explosive, very dynamic. I like Jekka a lot. He throws beautiful combinations that end with a kick, but I still think that he is very undersized still, especially against Lucas Alexander, who's a very technical kickboxer. He uses a lot of lateral movement, trains at a good gym at Fusion XL. Like I think it's going to be a fantastic fight, but for Lucas to be that big of a favorite, I don't agree with that. I do think that Jekka has a good shot because what I will say about Jekka is that he's not a perfect fighter. He can't particularly grapple, but it won't stop him from trying. Like I know he's been training his takedowns. Lucas himself isn't the best takedown defense man. He's just a basic kickboxer. I know he's getting better with his skill set. I just don't trust him at minus 300. Minus 200, definitely, but minus 300, although I do think he's going to get the win, I think he's going to win this one by a decision, mainly using lateral movement, having Jekka come to him. There's just too much danger, at least in my eyes, for Jekka, who throws everything hard, that he might crack Alexander with something good. So I will stay away from this fight, but I do think Alexander, if he uses smart, intelligent game planning, avoiding anything, have Jekka come to him, use takedowns of your own because Jekka, he's no longer fighting these terrible. What did I write? What the fuck exact thing? Because I think I put it beautifully. He's not fighting these giants who suck like Anshul Jubilee at 155 because Anshul Jubilee sucks. I've said it from the beginning. I picked Saragih to beat him, but Jubilee's just a giant, took him down and beat him. Had they been the same size, Jekka would have fucked him up. In this case, Lucas, he's bigger. He can definitely use some grappling. I've gone over the 2 minute mark. Definitely use some grappling, tire him out, just win the fight because I don't know if he's going to be able to knock out Saragih. Saragih has a ton of power. He seems to have a good chin. I'm going to go with Alexander. Just be smart, avoid anything powerful, and then just get this decision win. Next bout, holy shit, Charles Johnson versus Rafael Estevam. What are the odds on these guys? Johnson plus 100, comeback on Estevam is minus 120. Oh, man. Charles Johnson, I've kind of fallen, yeah, excuse me, I've kind of fallen out of love with Charles Johnson as a fighter because what he does so well is putting on pressure, good boxing, like great pace on guys. He can break dudes, but to me, it's starting to look like he needs to move up in weight to maybe 135 because 125 might be taking too much out of him. In the past, he would have cardio all the way up into the third round. In his title fights, fourth and fifth round, he'd have a great cardio, but now it's like he's definitely slowing down. He's getting out wrestled. I don't know, man. On top of that, I tweeted at him jokingly at one point. I'm like making a joke about like, hey, after the Ode fight, are we going to see energy or lethargy because he got tired. And he got all butthurt and pissy. And I'm like, dude, I'm making a pretty good joke. It's clever. And he's like, oh, it's not relevant. I'm like, what do you mean it's not relevant? You got tired. And then, funny enough, Cody Durden did the same thing to him. He got tired, couldn't finish him in the third. I was like, dude, Charles, what the fuck? But Charles is a great fighter, though. And when I'm looking at tape on both these guys, Estevam, he's also a very good fighter. He's fought some good competition. He fought, who did he fight? He fought a dude named Felipe Estevez. He's a very good fighter. I think he's like 13-1. Fought him at LFA when they were both undefeated. Estevam's a pretty solid fighter, but I have my doubts about the guy when it comes to like his game plan, his cardio when it doesn't work is what I'm trying to get at. Like he likes to ground and pound dude. The striking's like okay. He does throw with some power, but I don't feel quite comfortable with him quite yet. Like I want to see him in the UFC with UFC competition with perfect matchup right now, Charles Johnson, to see if he can handle a guy like Charles, who, if Charles comes correct with a gas tank, he's going to be able to push a pace that maybe Estevam isn't going to be able to handle in rounds number 2 and 3. Estevam's got good takedowns. He's got good jujitsu. Guy is very solid. This could be a fight where Estevam just dominates Charles Johnson. Maybe takes him down once, takes his back, transitions to mount, and just smashes him. Maybe gets a rear naked choke. But if that doesn't happen, if Charles Johnson defends takedowns, which I think he will be able to in the first round, it could be a completely different matchup. I think this is one of the better fights early off. But to me, it's still like it's fucking stupid. Like anything could really happen. Is Charles Johnson going to come back to his normal ways, prove that he needs to move up to 135, gets tired, and Estevam just handles him on the mat? Maybe an exhausted Estevam is coming out round number 3 completely tired, but Charles Johnson doesn't have enough to finish him off. Maybe make up some rounds, maybe at least try to get a 10-8 to make it a draw. I can't trust Charles. I think Estevam, he's proven to have very good wrestling, being able to take down good wrestlers himself, the jiu-jitsu ability. It's too dangerous for me to bet. I'm going to pick Estevam. Part of me is telling myself, like, hey, take another shot on Charles Johnson at dog money, maybe even a live betting situation here. I think there is a good chance that Charles Johnson could be a live dog. To me, it's like, don't bet Estevam because in the first round, if Estevam looks like shit, gets completely stuffed, and then Charles just knocks him out, then it is what it is, right? Like no money won, no money lost. But if Charles loses that first round and he's looking good cardio wise, I'm like maybe round number 2 is where I would put maybe a couple dog odd bets on Charles Johnson at like maybe plus 180, plus 200, knowing that his cardio is holding up. I'm going to take Estevam. I just think this is like such a nothing fight, really, because Charles Johnson, had he won his last fight against Cody Durden, he'd be the favorite, but it wouldn't really warrant him based off of that performance. Like had he lost the fight exactly the same way up into the third, and then he knocks out Cody, one could say, yeah, he should be the favorite because he won, but that performance itself kind of still leads me to think that Estevam has the ability to do something similar, take his back, control him. That's why I'm going to go with Estevam. Hate this fight though. Hate it in the sense of like thinking about it and betting it because there's just too many outcomes, too many possibilities. The live betting angle, the early bet, whatever. I'll go with Estevam by I'm going to say the guy can strike. I'm going to say rear naked choke, round number 2. Next bout. I think this is a little easier. Chad Anheliger versus Jose Johnson. Johnson, if I remember, was a pretty big favorite. Where is that Cocksucker. Minus 205 comeback on Anheliger is plus 175. So most people might be thinking Jose Johnson, whose nickname is the Lobo Solitario, the lone wolf versus the monster. Why is this guy with a 15-8 record a favorite over a guy that has a UFC win, who has a win over, what was his name? Muin Gafurov, who seemingly looked solid in the UFC. Is it because he's 36 years old and Jose Johnson's 28? Here's the shit about Jose Johnson. He gives me the impression that he started fighting for the fuck of it without really knowing how to properly fight, how to properly do MMA. Thus, him having a ton of losses on his record. The guy's beaten some good competition. He's lost to some good competition. The other thing is that he has a ridiculously long reach for the division and he can strike. And on top of that, he has a ton of power. I think because he moves up and fluctuates in weight, like he goes to 145, he goes to lightweight, his power really comes more in 145 where it's like more devastating, more one punch, but the guy can definitely strike and he's getting better on the mat. I think his takedown defense is improving, his ground game is improving. He's super long. He makes guys with better ground games, not great ground games, because we saw what happens when a guy like Blackshear takes him down. Easy money just taking Blackshear by submission. That was like no brainer because like that's the kind of guy you bet against Jose Johnson, guys who can grapple, guys who can strike. Damon Blackshear really almost felt like no threat against Jose Johnson, and they ended up twisting his ass. That ain't going to happen here against Chad Anheliger. Jose Johnson, I've been really critical of him in the past, but as of late, as he's gotten older, the guy is definitely getting better. And with that type of striking ability, the type of range he's going to keep, the distance, what am I trying to say? The reach advantage he's going to have 71 and a half compared to 64 against Chad Anheliger. And Anheliger was getting really rocked by Almeida. Jose Johnson's going to knock him the fuck out. I've got Jose Johnson on a parlay already. Round number one knockout for me. Like Chad, what did I write? I wrote something about 2007. What did I say about him? I said, dude's scrappy and he's well rounded in the sense if this was 2006, he would be considered one of the most well rounded guys in the division. He can stuff takedowns, he can strike, he has some power, good movement and such. But I think these much more younger athletic guys like Jose Johnson, fuck his record, 15-8. Don't pay attention to that. Go watch his skill set. Like even against Damon Blackshear, he started to get his punches off. I was like, damn, if one of those landed on Chad, I think it really would have hurt him enough to either knock him out or put him on that LGBTQ street to the point where he would lose particularly every other round, every minute of the round where he's wobbly and then maybe got finished in the third or was tough enough to survive a really beat down of a decision like 30-24 type of stuff, you know? So to me, I think Jose is the complete upside. I don't love the line, but if I'm being honest, if he comes out looking like I think he's going to come out and look, he should be like maybe minus 400 against Chad Anheliger. Hope to God he doesn't let me down because I've bet Jose Johnson in the past and he has let me down tremendously. Like this guy is a multiple fight vet. He's fought good competition. Oh yeah, who did he fight? He's fought Manny Martinez, lost to him, lost to Ronnie Lawrence. That's the fight that pissed me off. Who did he beat? I thought he beat somebody good. Perhaps not. Maybe I'm thinking of somebody else. But yeah, he's fought some good competition, not always beat him. He beat a guy named Mo Miller. How's Mo Miller doing? Not great. He's looking like shit these days. Anyways, yeah, he could be a letdown spot, but I don't think this is going to be it. I think he's finally hit that stride where he's just going to make easy work of the 36-year-old. Let's move on. We've got Jonathan Pearce versus Joe Anderson Brito. I'll make this one very brief. I'm going to go with Brito by a knockout in either the first or the second round. I'll say officially second. I think Brito, his first fight in the UFC, looks tailor-made for Pearce to exploit. Like Brito was not able to grapple at that point himself. He wasn't able to get the fuck is his name? Algio down. And because Algio has a stupid ass chin that he can't get knocked out, Brito wasn't having a whole ton of success with his punches, which kind of led him to want to grapple more. Afterwards, he's like, well, shit, why am I not using my God given gifts of the knockout power? We saw what he did to the likes of Andre Feely. We saw what he did to Lucas Alexander, just took his back, submitted him. and then Weston Wilson. Like Weston Wilson is, I don't really want to talk too much about him, but let's just say I saw 2 minutes of him fighting and I knew he was going to get brutally knocked out. And Brito did not disappoint. Pearce, the guy has a grueling pace, ridiculously grueling pace. But to me, there are openings for him to get clipped either, well, obviously on the feet, but also possibly even submitted when in transition. I forgot the odds. The odds have it Pearce minus 150, come back on Brito plus 130. So partly the odds. I like Brito because he is a dog. As a dog, I think he's the more dangerous of the two, but he is very likely to potentially succumb to the pace of Jonathan Pearce if Pearce does survive a barrage, if Pearce does survive any guillotine attempts or rear naked chokes, because I think they're so evenly skilled. I want to see how this plays out, and I'm willing to take a shot on Brito. I haven't bet him yet. I am debating betting him because I am worried that if Pearce does put on that nasty ass pace, because he does have a grueling pace, he could potentially just grind out Brito. I want to see Brito come out here not particularly afraid to grapple because I think he can. I think he can even take Jonathan Pearce down. And if he takes his back, he's going to have the better jiu-jitsu than Jonathan Pearce. It's just when you are out of gas, you are no longer a high level black belt or you're no longer a high level grappler. And Jonathan Pearce, he can continuously be a pretty mid level grappler that can win fights at a very fatigued pace. So that's what really makes him very dangerous, especially winning fights by decision. He can definitely go that route. He can also destroy dudes, but I don't think he's going to have that kind of ability to destroy Jonathan Brito early. I think if it does happen, it'll have to be later after he's kind of diminished his gas tank and beaten him up a little bit. But if it stays on the feet and Brito goes forward and does everything first, I think he has a chance to knock out Jonathan Pearce and or possibly submit him in the sense that even if Jonathan takes him down, I think Brito could get back up. He's a powerful little dude. And then Jonathan does it again. He can snatch up a really tight guillotine. So I like Brito in this situation, but I know the danger that comes with it because once that energy bar goes down and I'm seeing Brito slow down in that late second and third, I'm like, that's where Jonathan's going to really flourish and push that pace. So I'm going to go with Brito by second round knockout. Next bout, Mick Parkin versus Kyle Machado. I will be very upfront. I already have a bet on Mick Parkin. I think he is just a different breed of heavyweight at this time. And not in the sense that he's like UFC championship material. I just think that at 7-0, 28 years old, he's 6'4", 79-inch reach. He's got it all to eventually flourish into potentially top 20, top 10 material. He's a new breed of heavyweight in the sense that these mid-level heavyweights that you see, like a Parker Porter, they ain't nothing special. Now, if Mick Parkin was in that Parker Porter area, like, oh, you see him fight regularly, he can beat a bunch of dudes. That's a completely different beast. I think Mick Parkin, he can strike, he can grapple, he can get jujitsu submissions on you. Why did I say jujitsu submissions? He can get submissions on you, good pace, um, good cardio as well. Very smart. He trains with the fucking champ and Tom Aspinall. And then Caio Machado, I went back, rewatched this fight. I bet this guy in the Contender Series. He was a pretty decent dog, and I was like, I can't believe I'm going to win money off of this shitty ass performance. He's super sloppy. What else do I have about the guy? Super sloppy. He has some skill, but yeah, he's just very unrefined. Is the best word to say it. Throws a lot of looping punches. He has a lot of skill on the mat. Like he can get on top, get an arm bar. Like I think he's gotten a lot of submissions in the past, mostly with ground and pound and getting on top. But I think Mick Parkins, he has better cardio. I think he can actually stuff a lot of the takedowns in the clinch. I think he's going to be a lot well suited in there because obviously training with Tom Aspinall, that guy, if he gets on top of you, he's going to fuck you up. And knowing that camp, you don't want that to happen. So Mick definitely is very well aware of that, especially in this fight where Kaio's going to want to get on top of him. I think I think Mick's going to finish him. I think Mick's going to knock him out. Yeah, I'm going to say knock him out in the second round. I think the first round, Kyle will swing wild and then eventually Mick's just gonna pick him apart, start attacking the lead leg, and then just make him look silly, and then little by little crush him. And then when Kyle shoots for a sloppy takedown against the cage, we're gonna see Mick reverse, get on top of him, and just smash him. Because I don't like what I see from Kyle. I don't think he was deserved of a UFC contract, and I think he is deserved of an ass whooping. So I've got Mick Parkins on a parlay with who else did I parlay him with? Let's take a look. A bunch of idiots. Um, you have a stupid ass parlay. I have Jose Parkins and two other people we haven't discussed. Moving on, Lucy Pudilova, the Wolf Bitch, versus Eileen. Do my eyes deceive me? Is her nickname Nurmagomedov? It used to be Fiona because of uh, because of Shrek, right? Princess Fiona, which it was funny because like I always thought she looked more like Shrek. Eileen Perez, the Argentinian. Now, that's so fucking funny. That's really, really funny. The joke being that like she's learned how to wrestle and put on a nasty pace. And to keep this one brief, like Lucia Pudilova, I think that was her biggest strength after she got cut from the UFC. She's primarily a kickboxer. She's training out at SBG. She's mixed in more takedowns, really nasty ground and pound. I have to admit, like, I don't think much of Lucia Pudilova. I think her kickboxing's mid. I think her takedowns are kind of shit. I think she can beat a lot of low level girls. But like we saw in her last fight, Jocelyn Edwards found a way to beat her, and I capitalized on that money line, baby. For this fight, I think Eileen Perez, the best way I can say this, partially disrespectful, is that the bitch doesn't know how bad she is, um, in the sense that like she's very delusional, and I mean this in the best possible way. That no matter what happens in a fight, she will not continue to stop fighting. Whether it be Lucia Pudilova is jabbing her to death, I think she's dumb enough to just push forward, maybe eat a punch, but still grab her, take her down. Because Eileen Perez herself, her ground game is solid as well. She's got a big ass, sits on top of you. She will drop some good punches on you. I do like the game plan of Perez, knowing that she's training at an MMA Masters. She looked as if in her last fight against Rebel Girl, what's her name? Ashley Evan Smith. Some people actually bet Ashley Evan Smith. I thought that was funny. Um, she looked every bit of trained by Colby Covington. I'm like, this girl's learning a lot when it comes to the grappling, setting up her takedowns, great cardio. She throws wild. She just has that dog mentality. Not only is her face, well, she's got that dog in her in multiple ways, but I see the way for Lucy to win this fight is to keep it on the feet. Do not engage takedowns because at that point, if Eileen gets a hold of her, she will scramble. She will get on top. She will push you against the cage. She will throw nasty looping punches and she will bring you down. I think Lucia Pudilova, although she's going to be the bigger girl slightly by 3 inches in height and an inch and a half in reach, I think this was one of her fights where she should just go back to kickboxing. Don't try to get it to the ground. On the ground, I think Eileen's going to be better at scrambles, and I think she's going to have the better cardio. So if you want to get gassed out, engage the grappling Lucy Pudilova. But I do think that Eileen Perez will win this one by a decision. Did I forget the odds on this one? I think I did. What are the odds? Perez minus 165, come back on Pudilova plus 135. It's women's MMA, so if you want to take Pudilova as a dog, that's understandable. But I do think Perez has turned the corner. Like her other loss was to some girl, Yetimaris Valdez. She beat the crap out of her, and they called it a disqualification because she kneed her on the ground or something. I know how raw Perez is, but I like what I see from her. I like that roughness. Woof woof. So I'll go with Nurmagomedov to win this one by Nurmagomedov decision. Next bout, Nicholas Motta, Iron Nicholas Motta versus Samurai Ghost Trey Ogden. I was looking back and forth on this fight. I did my tape watch on it. I had the initial reaction of like, I think I know what could happen, but I had to go back and rewatch tape to get a better idea just to make sure my mind was clear. The odds have it currently in favor of Motta minus 140, come back on Ogden is plus 120. And it's an interesting bout because of the odds it's themselves. I think maybe there's a good chance that Trey Ogden can win this fight if he implements a grappling heavy game plan. But I went back and watched. I'm like, not a lot of people have really been trying to grapple with Nicholas Motta. And even myself going back and thinking about Trey Ogden, I'm like, have I ever really seen him go for a takedown? And in certain fights, he hasn't even attempted to. Like the Bahamundes fight, didn't really seem interested in. The Zellhuber fight, he did go for one, but it was like more so Zellhuber not really reacting well to it. And I know he grappled with Leavitt, but his grappling itself doesn't really seem all that impressive. And on top of that, his striking is definitely not impressive. He's a very good disruptor when it comes to his point fighting style in the sense that like he just does enough to throw you off. And Nicholas Motta, he is a interesting character because he is a kind of fighter that you can throw him off as well. Like if you hit him with something, you can disrupt his like defense pattern or his striking, like his rhythm essentially. But from what I've seen from Nicholas Motta, especially with his two losses in the UFC, you would think that maybe the guy is chinny, which I do kind of suspect he might have a not particularly a weak chin, but if you catch him super clean, you might be able to hurt him. I don't think Trey's going to be able to really hurt Mota. He's going to have to grapple with him and get him tired. Even then, I don't really see Mota as the kind of guy that gets super tired. He does throw a ton of volume. He is very oddly defensively sound. And what I mean is like when I go back and watch his fight with Jim Miller caught him clean with a right hook that really hurt him, but it was more so that was a veteran Jim Miller. He's a very good fighter, and he just caught this guy who might have been a little too, I don't know, hyped up, a little too jittery in the UFC, maybe a little overconfident against a guy like Jim Miller. And this is, Jim Miller, right? A lot of people were out counting him out, and I'm like, no, 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 like Jim Miller still got some pop in his punches, and he can crack Motta, he can hurt him. And then that knockout that he had from Manuel Torres, he was really putting it on Manuel Torres. Like his hands look crispy clean. And then he just got caught with a vicious elbow that it would have put a lot of people out. I don't foresee Trey Ogden doing anything of the sort to Nicholas Motta. I actually see Nicholas Motta landing the cleaner, harder shots. Trey Ogden has never been knocked out. He has been submitted, but I was worried there. I'm like, is Nicholas Motta's only chance to win this fight is to get a knockout? I don't think so. Like going and watching more tape on him, knowing that he's at Extreme Couture, he looks in really good shape. It seems like he's got a whole really good team behind him. He's training with Jake Shields. Even Jake is like, yeah, this guy is getting better every month. Where like I would take him down. I'm like, oh, you would take him down, you say? And yeah, I was able to submit him, you say? And now he keeps escaping and he keeps getting back up, and he's really hard to keep down. I'm like, Jake Shields, he did a lot of things, but he really wouldn't lie about his students being shit and or being overly good. Like we see how good the Bashrat brothers are on the ground. So I do suspect that Moda is going to be able to hold his own on the mat, get back up, and put it on Trey Ogden. Because Trey, he doesn't strike great. Like if you put pressure on him, he's gonna react silly. And I think Nicholas is gonna look fucking fantastic in this fight. I think if he not to say that he can't get knocked out, like Trey Ogden, not the greatest striker, but if Trey Ogden puts something up there, like a knee or something, hits him something hard, he's going to knock out Trey. Trey's going to knock out Molta and or a bunch of other people that he lands that strike on. It's just up to Molta to be even more defensively sound, just a little less aggressive, pick his shots. But like, man, when I see his combinations go, I was like, this guy can pop. And there's a good chance he can knock out and be the first person to knock out Trey Ogden. Which you know what, I'm gonna fucking go with that. I'm gonna say second round knockout Nicholas Motta. I think in the first round Trey is going to not like what he's feeling with those power punches. He's gonna feel the whiff of the air and he's gonna be like, let's take him down. There's gonna be a bit of grappling transitions, and Nicholas is gonna get back up, possibly have some success on the mat. And then when the second round starts, Trey is going to be like diving for the legs. Nicholas is going to defend. He's going to let the hands go, knock him out in the second round. So I'm going to go Nicholas Moto round number 2 knockout. I'm looking forward to this one because, like, I was one of the very first people. I'm like, I don't think Nicholas is all that good, but it was case by case, and I look at these fights case by case. Not that good versus Jim Miller. Pretty fucking good against, what was his name? Van Camp? Cameron Van Camp. I'm like, Van Camp sky high chin is gonna make this easy for him. And then I'm like, I think Loco Torres might be able to crack him because, like, he's Loco. And in this case, I'm like, I think he's gonna show how really good he is because, like, I think he needed some of those losses, and I think he's been training with Jake Shields to make him a more well-rounded fighter. Where yes, he can win by a decision by striking and defending, but I think he's going to want to try to mix in some grappling himself to make him a more complete fighter. And I think that'd be very wise for him because he's got the striking on point. Excuse me. And now if he can get dudes to the ground and pound him out, it's going to be a very interesting fighter where we're going to hopefully, this is what I'm thinking about Moda, that we're going to look at him in like a year or two and be like, well, this guy completely changed shit up and he's just smashing dudes now on the ground. So that's what I'm hoping for in this case. So I'm going to go with Nicholas Moda, second round knockout. Next bout, very good fight here. Kickboxing matchup, Cesar Almeida versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Let's take a look at the odds we've got. Where the hell are you? Duncan minus 140, Almeida plus 120. Really not much to say. We've got two strikers here, and I'm going to go with Almeida. And the reason I'm going to go with Almeida by a decision is that this guy beat. Let me give out a very casual statement. Cesar Almeida beat the light heavyweight champion in Alex Pereira in kickboxing. Yeah, that's not why I'm picking him. And by the way, Alex beat him twice, and he only beat him once by decision. So there's another arc there where it's like, if Cesar Almeida makes it all the way to a title shot and somehow like gets granted a title shot versus Alex at 205, if he's still champion, if he hasn't retired, then it'd be really funny if Pereira knocks him out to make another person 3-1. But what's funny is that, like, yeah, he beat him in kickboxing years ago. That's not why I'm picking him. That's a good reason why. Just by itself, that's a very impressive, like, casual stat. The guy is very impressive. His takedown defense is impressive. His actual ground and pound is impressive. He reminds me a lot of Alex, but a version of Alex that actually really likes the ground game. Because in his contender series fight, like, he was stuffing takedowns against Lucas Fernando. Fernando? Yeah, Lucas Fernando. And there was a point where he had him in a like reverse triangle and he didn't know how to complete it. He didn't really know what he was doing, but all he knew was like, this is right. And then he just starts blasting the body. I'm like, this guy seems as if even at 35 years old, he is learning and he likes to fight. And being a high class kickboxer, he sees things better than most, especially like, MMA fighters. Christian, great fighter, right? Great kickboxer, more of a taekwondo guy, likes to spin, likes to throw, you know, switch up his stances, flying knees and such. But he's he's so flashy that flash and that threat of the flash, you know what I mean? Like a guy like MVP, you have that in the back of your head, like, oh, he's faking, he's jumping. That's dangerous. It's not fucking dangerous. A high level kickboxer is going to be like, he's just fucking around. Like, he ain't going to do shit. It's only until he does something that I have to worry about. And I think Armin Petrosian really exposed that. And I picked Armin to win. I'm sucking my own dick this night. I'm like, yeah, I picked all these good guys to beat guys that people thought were going to be the favorite. Yeah, I picked Armin to beat Duncan. I won some money there. I was proud of that because I thought, like, Armin's a better striker. He's a better MMA fighter. Christian Leroy Duncan is a lot of flash, and I think he has to learn from that. Like, he needs to be more intense, right? Like, I don't particularly think he is the better overall MMA fighter in this fight. I think he has attributes that could win against Almeida, meaning like he can be a little faster. He's a little bit more unorthodox. If he keeps it on the feet, it's very likely that he can lose another point fighting decision where Almeida just going to see everything. He's going to check kicks. He's going to throw the harder punches, and I even see Almeida going for takedowns of his own. But I do think that it would be wise for Christian to initiate the grappling because Caesar is still very raw, and I think Christian he could exploit that a bit. Uh, I know the takedown defense is going to be rough because Almeida, he's shown very good takedown defense, even though he's just 4-0 in MMA. It's very impressive. Like, both these guys, it's just nuts. If you were to look at just the records, 4-0 versus an 8-1, you would think, yeah, Christian has the more experience now. Like, Almeida has lots of experience in kickboxing. Like just combat itself makes you more comfortable on the feet. And because this is going to be a primarily striking matchup on the feet, it's really rough not to go with the underdog in Almeida. Knowing that, I think he's going to be able to use takedowns of his own. I got to go with Almeida here. It's not to say that I don't think Almeida can get knocked out. Like Christian can crack him hard and knock him the fuck out with like a spinning technique. Like no one is exempt. I don't care how many kickboxing fights you've had in your lifetime. You're not exempt from getting knocked out by something nuts, especially like a guy like Leroy Duncan. It's just to me, it just seems as if Almeida is just going to be a little too bright-eyed and eyes wide open. He's going to be able to see right through Christian's tactics. But this is a very good spot for Christian to come out here and prove us wrong and actually show us something else, a different dimension to his style in MMA. So for me, it's like I can't take him as a favorite, even though he's like a slight favorite. I have to see what he does. For me, I'd rather take Almeida, who, from what I've seen, I've been very impressed, like very, very impressed. So I'll go with Almeida by a decision. I say that because I'm respecting Christian Leroy Duncan. I fully would hope that Almeida gets a fucking vicious knockout, but I'll go with Almeida decision. Next bout, main card opener. So far, to me, the best fight of this entire card. I was doing tape on the rest of the fight card was like rough, man. I was like, there's no real clear edge. There's too many outcomes here. This one, I know the outcome. The outcome is going to be absolute violence, and I am way here for it. Johnny Parsons, the Sluggernaut versus the Dr. Earl Smetic. And the odds have it in favor of, I guess you can guess who, Earl's Medic plus, I'm sorry, minus 235. Come back on Johnny Parsons. Is my name Johnny? Yep, it's Johnny in solidarity with Johnny Parsons. That's his tag. It's JAW and then knee, like knee. And I think it's his Instagram or something. So in solidarity with my other Johnny, I am also Johnny, which kind of makes me a little upset that I didn't think of it first. But Johnny Parsons, fucking awesome dude, man. I cannot hate on the slug or not. I went to his Instagram just to see what's going on. There's a video of him setting up his line with, I think, Pro Gonzalez, and it's like him saying, "Hmm, you know, my nickname is the Paradox, but I got another nickname." And then Pearl's like, he cucks him, saying like, "Are you planning on fighting next time or whatever?" And he's like, "Excuse me," and then he's like, you just hear the wah wah wah. And then he does the line next time that he does an interview with Pearl, and he's like, "They call me the Slugger Knot." I was like, "Fuck, dude." I fucking think it's the stupidest, corniest thing, but I love it so goddamn much. You're gonna slug or not? Holy shit. I love me some Johnny Parsons. I'm rooting for him so damn hard, but I've already put a bet on Earl's Medic. The reason for it, I think Earl's is gonna fight intelligent in this fight. Johnny is super dangerous because he's the slugger not, bitch. He's gonna come after you, man. He's very, very good at Thai boxing. Like it's been stated many times. Like he like Almeida, he's got good eyes for striking. He can check kicks. He sees everything very, very well. He's got power in his punches. But what I don't love about Johnny is that he follows too much. And I picked and I bet um Leon, no, not Leon Edwards. Who am I thinking of? Danny Roberts to beat Johnny Parsons. And he was doing exactly what I think Earls is going to do, staying on the outside, long range weapons, kicks from the outside, throw hard punches when you can, and just play the matador. Like don't fall into that slugger not game. And you know what happened in that fight with Roberts? He decided to slug, and then it did not go well for him. So Johnny Parsons, he has power. Earl's Medic at 170, like I was incredibly impressed. I was devastated when he knocked out Semmelsberger because I had a beautiful parlay, ton of money on Semmelsberger, and I thought he was going to win that fight. And then Earls knocked him the fuck out. Like he showed his true form at 170. Like he looked very, very good, very, very, very good. Just that he still got dropped. And I do think that Earl's Medic's chin is a little sussy wussy. But in this case, he does have the better movement. He's much better with the lateral. I think he's going to have the exact same game plan in this fight against Johnny Parsons as Danny Roberts did, except that Earls isn't going to fall for the trap of slugging or not. I think Earls is going to slug when he wants to, and Johnny will not. So I think Earls with his left hand, it's a fucking piston. Like it's going to crack Johnny. Johnny's not a guy who I would consider to have a weak chin. I think he's got a very solid chin, but he's been knocked out himself. And if Earls catches him clean with a straight, I think he can put his lights out. So it's going to be a really good fight for Medic to show his patience and his intelligence. So lateral move against the cage, throw kicks, and when you see the opening, throw the power, throw the heat at him. Where you know what Danny tried to do was try to get Johnny with his forward pressure off of him by slugging with him, by throwing and exchanging wild. And Johnny just got the better of it because he was just eating those punches. I think Earls is going to hit a lot harder. He's going to be a lot faster. And I'm not going to say he's going to knock out Johnny Parsons because I love me some Johnny Parsons, but I do think that he's going to win this fight very, very clearly. There might be a shot there where Earls gets dropped, but his recovery at 170 looked pretty damn good. And honestly, I don't think Johnny hits incredibly hard. I just think that at that point, Danny Roberts looked like ready to retire, man. Like his chin just could not take anything anymore. Like maybe I could knock out Danny. Realistically, I can't because he'll beat the shit out of me before he gets tighter enough for me to land a shot. But I think if I were to hit him clean, I can probably knock him out. But I go with Earl's Medic by a decision, but I would not be surprised if there is a knockout. And I do have Earl's in a parlay along with Mick and Motta. And who else? Jose Johnson. So hopefully that pans out for me. Next bout, Amanda Ribas versus Luana Pinheiro. I ain't gonna waste my time on this one. I'm going with Ribas. I know she's a fucking huge favorite. I know PayPal my money is gonna get butt hurt that I'm picking against this girl Pinheiro, but minus 305 compared to plus 255. The reason for it, yes, I know Ribas is chinny as fuck. Um, Pinheiro doesn't do enough for me. She doesn't throw enough punches sometimes. She does have tremendous power, but her rat-faced boyfriend isn't training her very well. What's his name? Whatever. What is his fucking name? Ratface got knocked out by Raw Dog Royval. Mateus Nicolau? Yeah, that's him. That rat face fuck. But yeah, Pinheiro to me, she throws her blitzes. She just doesn't do enough. And I think Amanda Ribas is just better, really. Like the only obvious thing is that her chin isn't all that great. I don't really trust Pinheiro's chin herself. I think that if Ribas can survive the first round and get into her rhythm, she can definitely take over, maybe even knock out or submit Pinheiro. I think she'll be busier. I think she'll be smarter, use takedowns. I just see too many opportunities where I would have a ticket on Pinheiro. I'm like, fucking go, bitch, do something, knock her out. And Amanda's just like, I'm like, fuck. I'd be so pissed. So I'm gonna stay away from this one. I would advise everyone to do so as well. If you cash Pinheiro by knockout or that plus money, I congratulate you on your brass balls. But for me, my balls are just gonna say squishy. I'm not gonna play this one, but I'm gonna go with Ribas by I'll just say by a decision. I think she'll just be busier and she won't get knocked out. If she gets dropped, ooh, it would suck, but I would think that she's decent enough at straw weight to be able to recover. Wait, she's dropping back down? Ooh. Uh-oh. I didn't realize she was dropping back down. That's suspicious. Clearly because at 125, she did not have a very good time. She got knocked out last time against Macy Barber. So yeah, that changes things a little bit because that weight drop, fuck it, I'm not gonna change anything. If Hebaz just protects herself very well, I think she's gonna be able to do well. For real, the 115 was always her weight class. It's just at 125, she's a little bit more durable. Pinheiro, again, like she can definitely win this fight. The plus money on her seems to be almost like a gift, but it almost seems like a trap to me because I think Hibas is the much better technical fighter. She actually throws punches. She's just cleaner. But again, the chin is an issue. So I'll go with Hibas decision. All right. I have a bet on this fight. We've got Peyton Talbott versus Nick Aguirre, slick Nick Aguirre. Let me check my notes on good old Peyton Talbott. right here. What are the odds? They're fucking ridiculous. That's what they are. But it is minus 625 on Talbot. To come back on Slick Nick is plus 450. Now, if you've seen Talbot's performance on the Contender Series, it's really, really hard not to view him with a striking style, not the movement wise, but when he throws his punches with like full extension, fucking even with the fucking hair, like a very awkward Tanner, more gay version of Sean O'Malley. The guy can strike. He seems like a special talent. Like I have my doubts about the guy, especially at those odds. So that should let you know that I already bet Nick Aguirre. He is that plus what was it? Plus 410, I believe is what I got on him. Let me check. I hope it wasn't plus 410. Yep, plus 410. See, I could have gotten him at plus 450, but here's the thing about Talbot. Here's the risk I'm running with, right? Nick Aguirre, he is 0-1 in the UFC. Prior to that, he was undefeated. He fought short notice against Dan Argueta. I actually took a little bit of money on Nick Aguirre to beat Argueta. I remember having that issue as well. Dan Argueta, Nick Aguirre, Aguirre. Anyways, Aguirre, I took him because he's got some good jujitsu off of his back. He's very slick, given the nickname, but he's not a complete dominant type fighter. It's just there's good about him, and his striking is what's really bad about him. In this particular spot, the striking is like different planets, right? Peyton's super comfortable on the feet. He's super like loose, and he throws everything with good power. He does eat a ton of punches, though. Peyton Talbot is an anomaly because he eats things flush and they don't even seem to bother him. And that kind of pisses me off that he eats so many punches. He doesn't seem to bruise. He just takes them fine. Like in his Contender Series by Junior Cortez was landing on him, landing on the legs. And I thought he was going to show him like, dude, you're not ready for the UFC. You're fucking 5-0. You don't belong. Right. And then he found a way, like he just pressured, landed on him and chipped away at him. But there were some moments there with Talbot that he was doing a lot of terrible shit. Like you would see his head go back after getting clocked. Seems to have a very good chin, but he would give up his back fucking often. Like he doesn't seem to correlate danger sometimes in certain matchups, is in the sense that like, yeah, I can give up my back because nothing's gonna happen. And in this case, he was right. Like Junior wasn't gonna take his back. Nick Aguirre's going to take your back. Nick Aguirre's got really good jujitsu. Nick Aguirre can grapple. He's so awkward. Not maybe awkward's not even the right word. He's very, I hate to say it, but fucking slick with his takedowns. He's not a great takedown artist, but like everything he does on the ground is transitions. He was able to take Argueta's back, right? And if he takes Talbot's back, I think it could be a wrap for him, right? Talbot to me seems like the kind of guy because he's super flashy. Like even the Contender Series, he had his leg all up in the air and he does a backflip to get out of it. He seems like the kind of guy that if Nick takes his back in a rear naked choke, he's going to try to do a front flip and he's going to land on Aguirre's back, still with the choke sunk in. Like that's what kind of gives me the impression of what Talbot's going to do. He's going to do something fucking wild and fun and stupid. But to me, I think I'll take a shot on Aguirre. I think that he can get that submission. I think that he can take the back, control him, and get a submission on the guy. I think it's going to be in the later rounds. But the huge danger is that if Nick cannot get it to the ground, because Talbot has a good way to get back up, he pops right back up. I think he's going to be in a shit ton of trouble, a shit ton of trouble. So that's the biggest risk. But you're giving me plus 450, plus 410 on a guy that has a huge upside when it comes to the grappling and submission threat against a guy who, to me, seems very unproven yet incredibly talented. And the other thing that like made me think I ain't fucking touching this guy. The guy does pole dancing. I ain't about no pole dancing, man. I ain't about it. I just was like, dude, we already got Jordan Leavitt and Chase Hooper on this card. We don't need to add another one of you. So I went Nick Aguirre. I'm gonna go round number one, submission. I just see at one point in time in this fight, if Talbot doesn't come out here and just like dink him, dink, and knock him out, I think Nick's going to be able to take that back. and then I want to see what happens. I'll take my chances with Nick Aguirre possibly getting that submission. So I'll go with Nick Aguirre round number one submission. Speaking of Jordan Levitt and Chase Hooper, what a what a fun fight. The plenty trash talk they've been going on social media has been fun. Jordan's like, I'm not going to twerk on a kid. This isn't California. Fantastic work there. But the odds have it in favor of Chase Hooper minus 250, Jordan Levitt plus 210. I was going back and forth on this one. Like, based off of the last fight from Chase Hooper, he looked vicious. Like, I would have a fuck. Oh, shit. I was like, should I say it? I had a joke about Maheta Santos and Yana Kunitskaya, and I would say, like, ever since they hooked up, that Maheta that Kunitskaya would be ingesting made her more aggressive and just super more fun to watch. And I was gonna say, like, maybe Chase Hooper has been ingesting some of that same Maheta juice because he was super aggressive in his last fight. Like, he nearly knocked out Nick Fiore, and I was like, holy shit! Like, maybe Chase Hooper finally turning a corner where he's like striking much better. Like, I was very impressed by what I saw. I picked Fiore. It was not a good night for me where I was like, are you really going to let this twink outbox you? Dude, you train at the New England cartel. They should kick your ass out for getting outboxed by Chase Hooper. Like, Jesus. But Chase Hooper is an anomaly to me because, like, there's so much bad, and then he flips the script on you the next fight. Like, he got knocked up by Steve Garcia, who just fucking annihilated him, made him look like an idiot, just blasted him with punches. And Chase, when he gets into that mode of like, oh my God, I'm getting my ass whooped, he goes for desperation takedowns. He gets very desperate when there's a lot of pressure on him. Jordan Levitt's not really that kind of guy. He's more of a grappler himself. So I'm thinking, is there a chance Chase Hooper in transition get the better of Jordan Levitt? I'm like, well, he did get a very good wrestler in Clay Guida in a leg lock and Fury grappling. And I'm like, shit, like this guy's super dangerous when it comes to that game, like leg locks and super lanky. I don't know with Chase, right? Like with Chase, it just seems as if he can have a great performance one fight and then look like absolute dog shit the next fight. And given that track record, like he looked like dog shit against Peter Barrett, and then he gets that Hail Mary submission. Then he looks like dog shit against Steven Peterson, does not get a Hail Mary submission. Uh, hate to say it, but he finishes Felipe Colares, God rest in peace. And I was like, damn, he's turning the corner. Maybe he's going to be able to like do the same thing, put that pressure on Steve Garcia. No, Steve wrecks his ass, and then he defeats Nick Fiore. But he defeats a guy devastatingly that honestly got into the UFC and only stayed in the UFC because Rizbetsky could not finish him. And then Nick Fiore nearly gets finished by Chase Hooper. Like Chase is to me an anomaly because of that. Like I don't know which version of Chase Hooper is going to show up. Are we going to see the Chase Hooper that fought Angela Hill, or are we going to see the Chase Hooper that fought Jessica Andrade? Because giving Mackenzie Dern vibes. Jordan Levitt, Jordan's been out grappled. He's been submitted. Like I thought of this fight similar to the Claudio Poyas fight. Like whoever gets the better of the transitions, which I would assume would be Chase Hooper, is going to win this fight. But then I'm like, maybe that's not going to be the case. Maybe Jordan's not going to play that game because I think he's a little bit more vicious now. Like he's training at Extreme Couture, right? He's training with Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's calling this man a pussy and that he's gay on a daily basis. And we saw what happened in his last fight where he got the taste for the knockout, and now the taste of the knockout overweighs the taste of something else in his mouth. So maybe he's out here for blood. He wants to knock out Chase Hooper. So I'm thinking that there might be a chance here where Jordan Levitt. Let me clear my head of the gay jokes. Jesus Christ. There might be a shot here where Jordan Levitt does not engage in that kind of behavior with Chase Hooper, where he's playing on the mat with them, going like, "Oh, let's scramble here." Like it would be very wise for Jordan to use his striking. He's not going to have the kind of power to make Chase Hooper like, oh my God, like I'm a roly poly punching bag. But he's going to have the kind of striking to make Chase Hooper want to shoot. And what I mean is that if you clinch him up against the cage, I noticed that Jordan Levitt's dirty boxing and his clinch game has gotten a lot better. Not just the knees, but the elbows, the punches. I was like very impressed by what I've seen from Jordan Levitt. And I do think being at Extreme Couture, getting made fun of by Sean Strickland is like, shit, maybe he's right. Maybe I need to actually learn how to strike. And I think his striking has improved. And I do think there's a chance here where Jordan Levitt could just kind of push Chase against the cage, beat him up a little bit, and not play the game on the mat. And then when he needs to take him down, I think he can survive if he gets on top, but do it in the later rounds. I do expect Chase to come out like a ball of fire. I know his cardio's improved. It's a very risky fight, but I do think there's a very intelligent method for Levitt to win this fight. And I think that if he does sit down on his punches, he will have more power. I don't think Chase has a whole ton of power. I think he just kind of out volumes guys and he just drowns them. I said the word drowns and it made me think of them drowning and you know what, but he just drowns them in volume. Where I think that Jordan, if that does happen, he can take him down. Even Nick Fury was able to have some success with Chase Hooper on the mat. I'm going to take a stupid bet, not a bet, but I'm going to take a stupid shot on Jordan Levitt to win this one by a decision. Everything that I've seen makes me think that Chase Hooper on the mat will be able to have more success with scrambles, maybe even get a submission. But I do think that Jordan Levitt is getting better. And he's had these kind of fights where I just think he's going to be stronger than Chase Hooper. And on top of that, I just think he's going to maybe even hit harder than Chase Hooper. And I do kind of get this weird feeling that we're going to see Jordan Levitt knock out Chase Hooper. I don't know what it is, but I just get this odd feeling that it's going to happen. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say round number 2 knockout for Jordan Levitt. There's something is just telling me that inside the clinch, he's going to crack him with something, and Chase does not react well when he's getting hit hard. So I'll go with Jordan Levitt, second round knockout. I feel dirty saying that out loud. Next bout, co-main event: Jake Matthews versus Michael Morales. The odds have it in favor of Morales minus 250. He is my final leg of my parlay. I'm not even going to bitch around with like, I wonder who I'm going to bet. Jake Matthews plus 200. Jake Matthews, to me, he's a big old flake. He 19-6. I've seen it consistently. I've gone back when Holly Holm fought. I believe it was Holly Holm when she fought Ronda Rousey. I think Jake Matthews was on that card. Let me make sure. I remember the name. I just do not remember the card. Yep, Rousey versus Holm, UFC 193. He fought Akbarth Ariola, some Mexican dude named Akbarth Ariola. Ariola gave me a huge scare because I'm like, I think Jake Matthews is just a whole lot better than this guy. Akbar was kind of beating his ass. And I'm like, what the hell is up with this guy? Like he looks great up until he doesn't, like, and he alternates like that. He looks great. One fight looks like shit the next fight, and it's been consistent. Like when he fought Kevin Lee, I was like, he should be able to have something for Kevin Lee. No, Kevin Lee whipped his ass. Andrew Holbrook whipped his ass. Then he has some good, success. He comes back, he beats Jing Liang. I'm like, oh, okay, like he seemingly is back on track. Then he gets Anaconda choked by Anthony Rocco Martin. Then he has a good, like, oh wow, he's getting back on track. He's beating Emil Meek, and he decisioned Diego Sanchez, and he gets arm triangled by Sean Brady. It's like he can never get past that hump. And then he knocks the fuck out of Andre Fiallo. I'm like, maybe this is the hump that he needs to go over. Better striking, because we know he can grapple. And then he gets dropped and gets nearly finished multiple times against Matthew Semmelsberger. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? What is it? Is it something mental? He's got the skill. His boxing is definitely improved. His striking is looking great. It's just that he makes really bad decisions. Like he either chooses not to wrestle early or he decides to try to strike too often. He feels too cocky and comfortable. He gets caught with something. And then, he beats Darius Flowers. And Darius Flowers, he was not able to take Darius down. Darius actually took him down. It eventually became a fight where Darius just kind of gassed himself out. And it's really a fight that Jake should have been able to finish him a lot sooner. It was an anomaly to me. It's like it was a win, but to me, it's like a kind of a loss of reputation for Jake Matthews. Now he's fighting Michael fucking Morales. Michael Morales is undefeated. He's an Ecuadorian. There's a lot to love about the guy. There's a lot I hate about the guy, but I do believe Michael's going to knock him out in the second round. I think Michael, he's what, 24 years old. To me, and I'll say this as gently as I can, I view him as a lazy fighter because he relies too heavily on his God given athleticism and skill. The guy is super hard to take down. Shit, his last fight against Max Griffin, Max had him down. He essentially had him in the position to get him down. This motherfucker's hips just went like whoop, pulled the hands up. It was amazing. I'm like, this guy is ridiculously skilled. He does come from a wrestling background. Fantastic wrestler. The issue why I call him lazy is that he doesn't ever use his wrestling. Like he has the path of least resistance. He's got nasty power, but he just seems to want to strike with guys. And even when he does strike with guys in the first round, he kind of is lackadaisical. I don't know what it is. Like him and Cheeto, these Ecuadorians just want to take the first few rounds off and then they come out hard and they search for the knockout. I can't fully trust Michael really at a high level where guys can push a pace and have better strikes that will move forward. But in this fight, I don't foresee Jake having anything for Michael Morales. I don't see Jake being able to take him down. I don't see Jake being able to knock him out. Morales has a super long reach, 79 inches for welterweight. The dude is fearless. He has a good chin. His jab is hard. He extends his punches all the way through. There's a point in the Max Griffin fight which I thought was hilarious, where he taunts him. He like goes like this, and then he like bum rushes him, and like it's almost like he charged up his energy, his super, and then he let it go. It was like Michael's pretty fucking cool. I don't foresee there being any issue here. I think Michael is going to finish him. I think the first round's going to be a feeling out process. The thing with Michael and my perception of his quote unquote laziness is that I think because he's still super young, he's getting by on beating really good competition, man. He beat Max Griffin. Max Griffin at that age, he was like 36, 37. Fantastic fighter, great grappler, great striker. And Michael, it wasn't easy for him, but he got through it without even truly trying, in my opinion. And then he beats Trevin Giles again. I thought Trevin was going to have something special for him, like making that UFC debut, and made it look easy. Adam Fugit, say what you want about Adam Fugit, he's a really good fighter, and he would give Jake Matthews a tough fight, and he handled him as well. Like Fugit gave him a rough fight, but Michael found a way. And in this case, this is the fight where Michael doesn't have to find a way. He's going to have it presented to him. Jake can strike. Jake can strike, and Jake can potentially hurt Michael. But I don't think he's going to have that chance here. I'm going to go with Michael Morales round number two. Round number one being a feeling out process. I think when Michael decides that it's time, we're going to see it. And say it does hit the third round and it's 1-1. That's when Michael's going to be like, it's time. Like it's over. Fuck this. I'm tired of playing games. I want to go home. I want to get my bonus and get another tattoo. We're going to see a 16-0 Michael Morales finishing off Jake Matthews with strikes. If Michael comes out here and starts to wrestle, I'd be like, fucking finally, right? We finally get the more mature Michael Morales who decides it is time for him to potentially like start reaching for the top 15 because he's number 25 in the world listed right now. I see a lot of potential with Michael, a ton of potential. It's just really up to him to decide when to stop dicking around. Like I view him kind of like a stoner, man. Like just put the weed down, start training a little bit harder. Not even that. He reminds me of John Jones without the coke habit. Hopefully, he's from Ecuador. Like the dude is so ridiculously talented. It's just that like there's something there blocking him. It's like, I don't really like to fight. I like to do coke. Like put the coke lines down, Michael, and start fighting right. Oh, I cannot wait for him to reach his full potential. Right, like if he does get stopped here or something crazy like that, maybe that would be what we need to see for his next fight, where he's like, I'm on it, right? But right now he's getting kind of by doing what he's been doing. Yep, Michael Morales is John Jones without the coke habit. Moving on, main event of the evening, we've got All In Brandon Allen versus Bear Jew Paul Craig. And for this fight, if I'll be honest, man, like Brandon Allen, I always viewed him as the Paul Craig of middleweight, and now Paul Craig is at middleweight. So we've got two Paul Craigs here. One is like, if you all remember Pokemons, where Pokemons you would get one Pokemons, and that Pokemons you would like level up his like defense, he would turn into one Pokemons, and then you would level up the offense, and it would become the different Pokemons. That's basically this matchup where we've got Paul Craig. If you up his max stats where it comes to like offense, then you would get a ground fighter who's really good off of his back. And opposed to Brandon Allen, if you max out his defense, you'll get Brandon Allen, the ground fighter who's good on top and good at taking your back. That's kind of how I view this one. Like they're both very suspect chinny. Brandon Allen's been knocked out randomly by people he probably shouldn't have been knocked out by in retrospect. And Paul Craig, essentially at 205, would get knocked out very often. Paul Craig has good striking. Brendan Allen, to me, has the better striking. I think Brendan Allen has the better defense these days. I think he's on a good roll. I think that he's got the massive upside in this matchup. And given that he is the favorite, he is minus 235 compared to Paul Craig's plus 275. There's like a delicious temptation of Paul Craig at plus 275 because we know Paul Craig can catch anybody off of his back. I don't think Brendan Allen's going to even try. I think Brendan's going to try to strike with him and not necessarily strike with him to keep it on the feet because he's afraid of Paul Craig on the mat. It's more so strike with him to hurt him to then finish him up on the mat. Where, for example, Paul Craig, I don't know how good he's going to be at 185 in the long run. I know he can make it, but he's 35 years old. They both have a win over Andre Muniz, but to me, it was Brandon Allen who had a more, yeah, not necessarily, yeah, it was more impressive. It was more impressive in the sense that like he broke him down, took him down, beat him up, and he kind of showed the game plan that Paul Craig eventually used. But for me, Paul Craig had the same game plan, but it was just a little bit of sloppier, and he ended up finishing him up with elbows. I don't really see Paul being able to take down Brendan Allen. I don't really see Paul Craig being able to hurt Brandon Allen unless if it's something sneaky where he knocks him out and then finishes him up. I don't see Brendan Allen making the stupid mistakes as to giving Paul Craig his arms and his neck to be triangled. I just see this being a stand-up matchup for the first two rounds where Brendan Allen is just going to be a little bit more technically sound. What did I write about him? Like I just finished watching tape on him, and I think he's the much more heavy-handed, dangerous fighter at this point. Like his hands definitely have more power. His chin is still the liability. I've seen him get hit flush, but I think he's eating the punches well because he's no longer afraid to strike. In the past, he would rush for the takedowns. Now he's more comfortable striking because his kicks are good to the body. The guy doesn't need to take you down anymore. He just willed to finish you off. And his rear naked choke game, where he doesn't even need the hooks to get it, and then he takes the hooks, amazing. I just think that on the feet, Brendan is going to crack Paul Craig with something hard. And at that point is where the true danger begins. That if Paul Craig still has his wits about him, can get something on him, but I think Brandon's going to be just too crafty. He's going to eventually finish him up with some strikes and or take the neck, rear naked choke. So I'm going to go with Brendan Allen, rear naked choke in the second. Or sorry, no, I'm going to go with submission, rear naked choke in the first round. I think it's going to be a decent amount of feeling out process. Brendan's going to crack him, similar to how he did against Bruno Blendado. Bruno Blendado Silva. Yeah, Bruno Silva, and then rear naked choke him. Paul Craig, he's always game, right? But I just think that the way Paul Craig is dehydrating himself. He's not always been able to take solid ass punches. I think with the power that Brendan Allen has right now, the way he's been developing it, I think he's gonna crack him with something good, and then Paul's gonna fall to his knees. He's gonna take him down, push him down, land some follow-up shots, get him out, take the neck, finish him off with a rear naked choke. So I'll go with Brendan Allen by first round submission. Yeah. So those are my predictions for this card. I'll be upfront. Like when I was taping this card, it was an absolute struggle. Like Peyton Talbott, there's so many opportunities for fighters to let you down. And one in particular is the Charles Johnson versus Rafael Estevam. I see that as one of the most dangerous fights because of the ridiculousness that could occur, where you might expect Charles Johnson to get completely out grappled like he has in the past by a very good wrestler grappler like Estevam, but then in this case, flips the script and he's like, "Yeah, I've been working my takedown defense and my back taking defense, bitch," and he just completely destroys Estevam. And or you pick Estevam and he does exactly what you expect him to do. And Chad Anheliger, Jose Johnson, like a lot of low level guys, some up and coming dudes. To me, the fights to watch are going to be a Nicholas Motta versus Trey Ogden. I want to see how good Motta comes out. If Ogden finds a way to beat him, then fuck, Motta's cut. So he has to win that fight. Medic versus Johnny Parsons, probably the fight of the night for me. I want to see if Johnny is able to slug or not, if Medic is going to allow him to, or if Medic is going to fall for that trap, because people seemingly fall for the trap of Johnny Parsons, where it's like, "You're a bitch if you don't strike with me." He's like, "Why ain't no bitch?" And then you're on the ground looking at the light saying, "What happened?" And then he's like, "You slugged, bitch." And then for me, of course, Peyton Talbott. I want to see if he is legit. For him to be a 6-0 guy coming into the UFC, being minus 600, I don't fucking care who you are. Like minus 600, Peyton should not be that minus 600 against a lot of people. Like if it's a chinny dude that's, coming back for a single fight after, considering retirement and waking up from a coma, yeah, for sure, minus 600 and above. But against a guy like Nick Aguirre, who's never been knocked out, that has that jujitsu acclimate, I just don't feel like it's a correct line. And I think that's a huge letdown spot. So that's why I'm taking Nick Aguirre. And then, of course, the battle of who is the true number one fruity booty, the Twink Chase Hooper or Jordan Leavitt. I'm excited for that one more so as for the outcome, not primarily to watch it. And then Michael Morales, I want to see what he can do. So let me know in the comments what you think, like, share, whatever. Also, if you want one of these TigerBomb hats for free, hit me up on Gmail, TigerBombMMA@gmail.com. Send me an email and I'll ship that out to you. Got like 2 left that I ordered, so giving them out. Let me know. Yeah, Johnny TigerBomb MMA. I will catch you next week.